Welcome to episode 4 of Mark My Bird. My name is T-Bird.
And I'm Mark Clavin.
We got a doozy of an episode today, Clavin. We got Blake Paul on the podcast, one of my favorites. Before we welcome Blake in, Mark, will you give us a jingle update? Do we have a jingle from your cousin yet?
No jingle from my cousin yet. How about Alo? Did he send you anything?
No, man. Alo DM'd me and said he was going to supply us with a jingle, but we still don't have one. So we'll keep everybody posted on that. I want to hear the Alo one because he's one of my favorite artists alive.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. His mixtapes from San Diego skate scene are something to hear. Spaceman Spliff, I believe, was his first release.
Yeah, so we'll keep everyone posted on that. In the snowboard world right now, Mark, I mean, I know in the Pacific Northwest, the season's kind of coming to a close. It's like sunny spring laps, which is awesome. Robin Van Gyn just wrapped R&D about a week and a half ago. That was really cool. We're going to have something on the Snowboard Mag site, a little recap from Robin's event. And then Uninvited is coming up, I believe.
Yeah, it started today as well as Culture Shifters. So, yeah, stuff going down in Utah and Colorado.
That sounds good. Culture Shifters looks like a fucking blast on hill, man. I'm loving the Instagrams coming out of that.
Yeah, I think, is it year 3 or year 4 already?
Unsure. I think year 4.
Yeah, last year the big rumor was Dave Chappelle was going to show up, but I don't think he did. But I wonder who they have, because like they always had some, huge NFL stars and huge guys in music. So it'll be interesting to see who comes out this year.
What's going on in Cleveland, Ohio? Any big news? You guys were kind of like, Cleveland was like the epicenter of the totality, wasn't it?
Yeah, man. Huge week for Cleveland. We had NCAA Final Four. Caitlin Clark lost here, but it was like the most watched. It was like one of the most watched sporting events in the past like 5 years.
Yeah, it had more eyeballs than any NCAA men's game all season. I think it had more eyeballs than like any NBA game that's gone down this year. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah, I think it was since 2019, according to the news. But yeah, no, I mean, huge for Cleveland. And the eclipse was sick. Like, we were supposed to have kind of clouds, but I know Buffalo, because one of our coworkers is in Buffalo, they had a rainy day. Like, it was a perfect sunny day here. Saw the full eclipse. I don't think it like changed my, view of the world and religion and everything, but it was pretty cool.
Are you like an eclipse guy now? Are you like basically telling everybody your eclipse story? Because that's all I hear from people who saw it.
I got a few. I mean, my friends got engaged during the eclipse story, like that's their new eclipse story is my friends got engaged, and me and Jack are looking at it, and it even had like the diamond ring after. So after, I guess, the moon moves a little bit out after the full totality, there's like a little flash and it does look like a diamond ring. So then I look at like my girlfriend of 14 years and like, nah, other people are getting, we've been engaged for a bit, but there's no wedding in sight. This podcast needs to take off, and I need to get a lot of money to put down a deposit for a venue and maybe a band.
Get Alo.
Yeah.
Spaceman Spliff at your wedding. There you go.
I don't know if he's gonna make the cut. But yeah, no, I don't know. Cleveland, as always, huge week.
Epicenter of the world, man.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you? How's Portland?
Portland is good, man. The sun's out. I firmly believe that when the sun's out, Portland is one of the greatest places to live in the world. So in the wintertime, super rainy, super gray, but I grew up in New Hampshire. I like seasons. I can deal with a little bit of rain because then it makes you super grateful when the sun comes out,
Yeah, for sure.
But it's good. Louis got her first soccer game this weekend, which is going to be really fun.
You finished up Trailblazers too, yeah? How was your last game?
Yeah, last game was awesome. They got one more home game, but I'm not working it. But it was great. They played the Pelicans. Super fun night. I love shooting in that stadium. It's so fucking fun.
Yeah, for those that don't know, T-Bird moonlights as a Trailblazer photographer with the staff out there in Portland.
Yeah, it's a good time, man. I fell into it. I'm really grateful, really lucky, and hopefully we'll do it again next year. They didn't make the playoffs, bit of a bummer, but I'm telling you that team's good, man. They got talent.
Yeah, and some of your coworkers have listened to our first episode, so
I think so. Yeah, I think
they get to now.
Well, speaking of episode, let's get ready to bring on our guest. The way I would describe it, if snowboarding had a royal family, this young man would be on the cover of all the tabloids. Gals would be passing out when they saw him in person. He's the crown prince. He's got it all. Skill, looks, and attitude. The kid's got some swagger on him. One of the chillest human beings ever, and it shows in his riding if you've ever seen one of his video parts. Cool, calm, and collected. His edits set the social media world on fire, but it's his video parts that truly establish him as one of today's greatest snowboarders. He's a pretty damn good skater, as if he didn't have enough. He's one of my favorite people on earth. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Blake Paul. Let's bring him in.
Wow.
What do you think, dude? What do you think?
That was huge. I don't know. You might have oversold it a little bit.
I know you don't like compliments. I don't like them either, dude. Don't worry about it though. It's all true, dude. You're just one of my fucking favorites. I've known you for a long time, and I'm proud of you, and I'm stoked that you're sitting here on our fourth episode of Mark My Bird.
Well, thanks, dude. Appreciate that. Yeah, I remember way back in the day meeting both you guys, and then yeah, awesome to be a part of your new podcast venture. This is sick.
Obviously, though, you know, it's like everyone says the same thing. I'm a huge part of this problem too. The Gordon Lightfoot bullshit. Let's set the record straight. You're not a huge fan of it.
I don't care. I mean, whatever. You take anything you can get out here in terms of whatever marketability and compliments. But
dude, Gordon Lightfoot. So wait, what's the story here? Is it T-Bird, you call him Gordon Lightfoot on a lot of
Yeah, it's kind of my go-to. I mean, I just like it, man. I actually had no idea who Gordon Lightfoot was. I don't know like where it really came from, but I heard it and it stuck. And then I did a little bit of research. He's actually like a very famous folk singer and songwriter from the 1970s. Did you know that, Blake?
Yeah, I knew it was like a musical artist. I feel like I know one famous song, but I can't think of it at the moment.
He does the tale of the Edmund Fitzgerald, or like the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
I have no idea.
Oh, you should look it up. It's a very good song. I actually thought it was gonna be a Cleveland related song because I thought the Edmund Fitzgerald was wrecked on Lake Erie, but I think I looked it up. It was Lake Superior. But you should hit that song. It's a good song. Next full part, you should put that.
Yeah,
this is kind of all you need. Look at this dude.
Yeah, it's pretty. Looks like my dad, kind of.
There you go, dude. So now we know who Gordon Lightfoot is.
Wait, T-Bird, before you jump into anything else, also, I just wanted to give you props. Very good. That was 18 years of editorial experience going into that intro.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah,
I packed a lot in there.
Prati, want to talk about, obviously, the most pressing matter, and I thought this was one of the coolest fucking things that's happened in snowboarding in a really long time. The Ride Snowboards announcement. It was, for snowboarding, that was probably the closest thing that I've seen to like a mainstream sports, like Kevin Durant going to the Suns or like a big free agent signing. Did you feel the same way in how it was rolled out when you announced that you were the newest team member of Ride?
I mean, I was obviously like genuinely stoked and like just excited to be a part of a brand that's already like built, you know, a whole new like vibe in the last like 10 years. And everybody on the team is like a pretty close friend. And a lot of people I hang out with more on like a day to day. But yeah, I don't know. It didn't feel, I guess for me, like I've been on most of my sponsors for like 10 plus years, or like some of them like 15 years. And I'm like, when I was going into it, I didn't like seek out to like change sponsors just because I was like hyped to be loyal. But, and also like everybody has taken such good care of me over the years. But yeah, I think it just felt like a big change in a sense where I didn't think of it like it was like, oh, this super big deal. But then it felt like personally like a big change and something that I like pondered for like months in the summer and all that. But then like once I started telling people and like heard people's reactions, I thought they would just be like, oh yeah, like makes sense, whatever. Like people were like very like stoked and surprised, and like people that like I didn't know knew were like coming up to me like, oh, I heard la 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 la, and I'm just like, oh, like damn. And then yeah, when it got announced, like even that video you made, Clavin, of like everybody in the airport, like that stuff was just like, whoa, okay, like this is rad. And yeah, I was just like kind of blown away at how like positive of a response it got, and also like how like mellow and just the whole like relationship was like leaving Mervin, and how they were like stoked for me and like made that like goodbye post on Instagram, and they like understood like what I wanted to do and supported it. So like it just felt like a proper transition at like a solid point in the career, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I thought the GNU post was so fucking classy and so cool on their behalf to kind of put it out there and just say like, we, instead of saying like, you know, goodbye to Blake, we're saying thank you for like a decade of helping us, you know, build this brand, is really fucking cool.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, between like Pete and Bertner and Mike and Al and everybody over there, and like Stanny, everybody I worked with like forever, like it just never, yeah, it just felt like family in a sense, where you're just like, oh, this company is like really run by these people that like genuinely like really care about it, and they care about the team and everything. And so I think it was just like, it never really felt like super business or corporate. And so when leaving, it wasn't really like that at all. Like, sure, everybody's bummed. It's like breaking up with like a partner or something. And then, yeah, you move on. And yeah.
I remember, I think I texted you, you know, I was the staff photographer at Ride at the time, and I had heard it just from the internal team. And I think I texted you like all caps, tell me it's true. And you kind of were like, yeah, but how'd you find out? The word was starting to get out. Like, how hard is it to keep anything a secret in this industry? It's tough.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I feel like most of the time that I talked to other people about it early on, they already knew. It wasn't really like I was telling people. But honestly, like Mikey LeBlanc kind of made it happen, like between him and Spencer. It was kind of like Mikey put it in my ear. I talked to Jim at Ride. Jim kind of talked to some of the people on the team, and then, you know, like eventually, like, yeah, I talked to Mervin about it, and then who knows, like everything just trickles out, and you're just like, all right, I don't know. Like I paddled out, I was like surfing in the ocean, and I didn't even know he was gonna be out there, I think, and it was just like Alex Lopez was out there, and he's like, so is it true? That's like the first thing he says to me, and I was just like, what? Like this was like very early stages. I was like, what are you talking about? And then yeah, he just like had heard from someone, and I was like, all right, like whatever. Hopefully nothing awkward happens here. But no, it was chill overall.
How many years were you with Mervin?
I mean, they're basically my only board sponsor since like I started doing like USASA contests. So like probably when like I definitely wrote a couple other random boards that I got for free, but they were like the first people to send boards and like provide opportunities and stuff. But that was probably like 14 years old or like 15, something like that. So yeah, for like 15 years basically.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And explain a little bit of your background. You grew up in Jackson Hole, correct?
Yeah, so family moved from Vermont when I was 7 to Jackson Hole. And my whole family snowboards. Like my parents basically moved there like for the outdoors, and like for the winters. And yeah, I have an older brother, older sister, both snowboard. And we moved out there. They lived there for like 17 years or so. So from when I was 7 all the way through high school, and then kind of like into my early 20s, I started to spend a lot more time in Salt Lake City and also in California. So I was kind of like bouncing around between those two spots and then going back to Jackson here and there. And now, yeah, I'm just kind of based between Salt Lake and Oceanside, California. And yeah, still go. Jackson's like 4 hours away, so still kind of try to base a bit of my season out there too.
And at what point in your career, obviously, like the only way to come up at that point in snowboarding was through like USASA. Did it click with you, or were you kind of like, competing like really isn't my bag? What was your thought on competitive snowboarding back then?
I mean, I don't like get like excited about competing, and I never have, like all the way like back to those times. In a sense where like I want to compete and do well and like have a purpose. And so when I was younger, I think it was like you see the other people around you. Like I saw like Sam Taxwood and Griffin Siebert and Sage and everybody like down here. So we would compete with Utah. So I'm like, well, like they're hooked up and that's what they're doing. Like you're not really filming yet. And that was just like a really good motivator to like learn tricks and go like learn all the fundamentals you want on a snowboard, and just like bad conditions. But Jackson never really had like a crazy park or anything. So I feel like just riding Jackson and getting like a taste of like a full on powder day on like really good terrain, I was always like, oh, but like then there's people that like just do this. So I was kind of like, I'm down to compete because it makes sense. But I knew like pretty much right away after like living in Jackson and snowboarding there that like I wanted to chase like the powder side versus like the contest side, like when the time was right, I guess.
I didn't know you were originally East Coaster. What part of Vermont were you guys from?
It was a small town called Bradford, Vermont. Like I honestly don't even know if I've been back like since we moved. So I think it's like southern Vermont, right on the border of New Hampshire.
Okay, and then do you know like where your family was taking you riding like back then?
Yeah, we would go. My family, like my parents taught, like volunteered or something on the side, and I'm pretty sure that was at the Dartmouth Skiway. So they taught like snowboard lessons at the Dartmouth Skiway. I went to Loon. I remember like Bretton Woods.
Yeah, Bretton Woods is dope. That place is
Yeah, I remember like night riding there. Like definitely very early memories. We also like lived on a bit of like a hill kind of around like some farms, and we like knew all our neighbors. So we had like hills that we would go around and we'd like sled or snowboard on. So like if it was like if it snowed overnight, we would just like hike around the house kind of vibes.
Oh, sweet. And then the follow-up question was just going back to where you guys were. Like, yeah, so when you were a young teenager, when did you actually start kind of figuring out to go filming instead of competing wise?
I mean, overall, I feel like snowboard videos are like the driving force of just being like, oh, like I'm very into this. You know what I mean? Like once my brother showed me like snowboarding videos, like Robot Food, and I remember like Shakedown came out at the same time. So I kind of had like a little look at like everybody. And yeah, like, and even my brother was showing me like old snowboard videos that he loved because he's like 10 years older than me. So like when I was super young, I was like getting exposed to like Decade and Simple Pleasures and like some of the TB videos and just kind of like growing up watching them. So I kind of knew like, oh, like that's gives me the biggest like feeling of like just like excitement for what snowboarding is. And we definitely, like my brother would film me and like he made a video part of me when I was like super young, like probably like 10 years old or less or something like that, where like we would hike around like Teton Pass and like he'd film me in the park, and it was mostly just like straight airs and 50/50s and like maybe a 180 or something like that. So like he already like fully exposed me to all that when I was younger. And so I got to like see myself ride. He made like a video of all his friends and then he like put me first part, but it was just like some clips of me like barely like hitting a first backcountry jump and doing a straight air. So I was like, once he showed me that and like surprised me with first part when I was super young, I was like, oh, like I'm just like, now I'm like hooked on this like feeling of like capturing like tricks that you learn or whatever. So when we were in high school,
Wait, was that Was that first premiere like with family, or did you get opening part like at a bar premiere as a 10?
No, no, it wasn't like an actual premiere. It was just like with family, and like it was like this might have been like straight up. I don't even know if this was like you're posting stuff yet. Like I don't think it's like pre-internet potential.
Yeah. How old are you now?
31.
Okay, yeah, so that was 21 years ago. I mean, that's
something like, I mean, he wasn't at least, or maybe I think he was in like video class in high school and whatever, but just being like, oh, like I went like I can see myself snowboard and I'm this young and I'm already like watching myself snowboard or whatever. But that kind of transitioned through like middle school and high school. Like I always had like a camera, and I kind of grew up like on a snowboard team with Cam Fitzpatrick and Cam Walters and our other friend Noah LeGros. And we were kind of like this like 4-pack of just like doing snowboard team, and then our coach would film us or whoever, and then I eventually got a camera, or we like split like a GL2 or GL1 or something, and we started filming each other, and then I just learned how to edit. So like pretty early on, like I don't know, like 14, 15, we were like trying to film each other and make videos and like hike around when there was snow, when we like weren't going to contests, or like filming the contests and stuff.
And at what point did the opportunity to film with Snowboarder magazine when they were making Forward come along? Because just as a quick aside, I remember when Bridges was like, oh, we're going to make a video this year. What should we do? And Transworld kind of had like the elite, right? They had like Torstein and Stahle and like all these globally recognized like super pros. And Pat kind of came up with the idea of like finding the super pros before they were super pros. And that's why we went with that like kind of up and coming roster. You look at it, it's Sam Taxwood, Spencer Schubert, yourself, Ben Ferguson, Nils Minnick. And I look at it now and I'm like, damn, that was probably the sickest video that Snowboarder ever made because of what you all became.
Yeah, looking back on that now, it's crazy. Like that probably came out 10 years ago now. But yeah, I think the opportunity just came up. I mean, I had been a part of a couple other projects that were like smaller, and whether it was like we did the Go snowboard road trip that like Lucas Dabari did. That was probably like the biggest video I was in. Before that, it was like Manifest through A-Rob, and I did some stuff with like Keep the Change and whatever. And then, yeah, I think like that was like the first real big video where I was like, had my own sled, was like out sledding. And I don't like remember how it happened initially. I mean, I'm definitely friends with a lot of the people in the video, from like Spencer to Sam, and Ojo and everybody. That's like probably when I met Ojo. But yeah, I think I just think back on like all the snowboarder years when Pat and you were there, T-Bird, where it was just like, I feel like you guys probably knew me before I knew you, in a sense where I'd go to the launches and I was super young. I'd be like, oh, these are the two guys that run like Snowboarder Mag and like whatever. And then I'd come visit in California, like even before, like I think I visited the office like when we went, before we went to Chile for Manifest, and like that was like 2011. Yep. So I had to have known or met you guys like right around then. So honestly, like I'm just grateful for like kind of creating those relationships, because it was probably just being around the right people, like in the Salt Lake world, or just being able to like be brought up by certain people to then lead to your guys' attention. And then yeah, I was like, remember filming for that video being like, damn, I have to do like really well because every other kid that's my age that's really good is in this video. And if I just have like a half part or something, like it's just going to not set the standard or whatever, you know what I mean? So I remember being like pretty young and pretty like stressed out filming for that video, but also young enough to like be really excited and have a lot of fun, but also like feel the pressure from it.
It's 10 years. It came out in 2014. So this is currently your guys' decade reunion.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. How did the crew work together? Because like we had kind of handpicked all of these like standout regional riders who had been in these small regional, like I guess I don't want to say lower production, but like smaller videos than like a snowboarder magazine video. And we knew they were all friends, so we knew they'd work together. But were there any like kinks everyone had to work out to be like, how does this process work in the backcountry or in the streets?
I think that's kind of like, you're always working out the kinks with every video, like even nowadays, of just like logistics and working with every like people and how everyone wants to work. And it's not even like working out the kinks, it's just like going through the motions of making the project like flourish. But yeah, I mean, I think the biggest kink was probably just like learning how to snowmobile and like really snowmobiling, and also just like learning that, like working with like Trent Ludwig, he was like very driven in a sense where he like really wanted to make like the best video possible, like without any excuses. And he knew what we were all capable of, so he like wanted to push us. And like it's almost like someone like that takes it more seriously because they've been through it and they know it, where like maybe a rider's just like, I'm just cruising around, like I'll get some footage, whatever. But then you like meet someone who's like very, very motivated. You're like, oh, like that's how you get this done. So it was a lot of like, it's good in Jackson and then go home for like a day, or like be in Jackson and then like go somewhere else for like a week and then like go home for one day and then go on another trip. And you're just like, that was like my first time constantly chasing it, which is like what we're just supposed to do now anyways. But like first year being like, oh shit, like we are literally like going in. And then you like hear about like, he's like, we need to build like bigger jumps because we need like shots for the teaser, and we need like teaser shots. And it's like January like 10th, and like we're hitting like huge jumps, like our last tricks like in January, I remember. And I was just like, all right, like I'm going like as hard as I can right now, I guess, like because everybody else is, and the like main filmer director is like really pushing us, which at the time I was kind of like, I think the biggest kink at the time was like balancing like this is work versus like this is for fun, because I was definitely like a little bit just burnt out at the end of the year. And I think Sam was too, because I remember us like bonding over like, wow, this is like fucked. Like, I can't wait for this to be like over, like the season to be done. And then I was definitely like, I think like Trent like pushes us like way too hard or whatever, like just some classic cliche stuff. But then looking back on it, I'm like very like happy that he did that, and along with like a lot of other people, because it like exposes you to like the work hard mentality.
Were you present for I heard his story about, I think Blatt told me it was like the flaming arrow when he was like dipping the arrow in the gas tank and the
Yeah. That was probably honestly like a very memorable, like sick winter, because I shot with Blatt like all winter, and we just like bonded a lot because he like likes to bring like a lot of fun to it, which helps. So like one time we're in McCall, he's always like stopping at gas stations buying like crazy stuff just to like,
he buys the craziest shit at gas stations. It's so sick.
So he bought like a bow and arrow, and we're out there. I think we had kind of gotten stuff all morning, and it's pretty like hot and sunny. And I think Trent and Nils or Hans was like, they were over filming something, or like they were getting like run-in shots, but they were doing like taking a long time doing it because for some reason it was just me and Blatt chilling. So he's like, let's try to like shoot some flaming arrow photos. Like he's like, let's fire this thing up. Like, so he starts like putting cotton or like tape or like some sort of like cotton tape combo on the end of the arrow, where he's like taping it around the end, and then he's like dipping it in his gas tank of his sled. And I like have no idea, like, because this is only like my like second or third year sledding or whatever. Like I've barely been out sledding, and I think this may be my first year with my own sled. And so I just like didn't even think like, oh, if that like, you don't dip stuff in your gas tank, or you don't even like open your like gas cap out there, you know what I mean? And so he's dipping it. We try one, we like kind of get it. It's like barely flaming, and we're like trying to shoot a photo or something. And then he's like, let's make like a big one. Like we got to really get it. So he like does this huge one. There's like sticks in it. He's putting like the like moss from trees. So it's like crazy, like mossy tape, like cotton ball. And it's probably like this big. And he like dips it in the gas tank and we're all excited. Then he just pulls out the arrow and there's just nothing on the end of it. So we're just like, oh, like he's kind of like freaking out. And I'm like, what? Like, what's it? I'm like, oh, like that's in your gas tank. He's like, yeah. First thing he says is he's like, Trent's not going to be happy about this.
So, yeah, because for the listener, like any like particulate stuff, like even like leaves in your gas tank can like kind of jam up the whole snowmobile, let alone like toilet paper, tape.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even familiar with that type of mechanics of snowmobiles or whatever, but I think that's just one thing, like that's not good. Like, and so I think Trent came up, we like kind of tipped his sled over and maybe thought like, oh, it's on the surface, we'll just like dump out a little bit of gas. So we like dumped out a little bit of gas and we're just like, nothing came, like we're just always gas. And then Trent came over. We told him, he was pissed. We basically tried to dump out more gas, which is not good. I would not advise to do that. And then we just towed the sled back to the trailhead, probably like 15 miles or something like that.
You guys, like, you could not fish it out.
We couldn't fish it out in any way. And I mean, in hindsight, I feel like I probably would have just said like, fuck it, and just like drove the sled back and then like taken it straight to the shop and been like, there's something in there.
Right.
Like, I drove it back. Like, what's the damage? You know what I mean? But instead we towed it back straight to a shop. I think the funniest thing is the shop is like, we didn't see anything. So now I'm like, did that shit just like disintegrate, or is it just like stuck on the inside of his like gas tank somehow? Like, eventually gonna run through his engine in some way. But
it's funny because I think I ended up buying that snowmobile from Blatt and never fucked my program up.
Yeah, those things are fine. I feel like everyone's like super careful. I heard of people putting like regular gas in their snowmobiles now, just like.
Yeah. And then going back to, obviously, like when that movie came out, I think I was at the premiere. Was the premiere at Stance? Was it the San Clemente premiere?
Yeah.
Did
premiere Stance, I remember.
Bringing it full circle, like from the first video part that you ever had when your brother kind of surprised you with the opener to that night, did you still get that same like dopamine hit when you saw the title plate come up for Blake Paul?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was probably, honestly, out of like anything, I mean, maybe like Landline premieres, but kind of up there with that, where there's like a shit ton of people, everybody in the industry never really filmed like a video part like that. And then I remember like me and Spenny were both like, oh, like who's gonna get opener, who's gonna get ender, and like we were just like young and like kind of like really caring a lot about it and putting a lot of pressure on ourselves, and also like hearing rumors about like the politics of like who might get edited and like whose opinions are going to influence it. And so we were like in California for a while before the premiere, and I think we had both worked on our parts and both like chosen our songs and stuff or whatever. And then but we didn't know like where we were going to stand, and so we're just like in California for like a while, like hanging out, kind of just like premieres coming up, like almost like all this build up. And then I think the day after the premiere, we knew we were flying like the next day, the Denver premiere or something. So just like cool. You felt like your dreams were like realized. You're like, I'm in SoCal, like I'm in this big movie, whatever. And then you go to that big premiere, and then, yeah, like I said, Spenny and I were all worried about it. And then I ended up getting opener and he ended up getting ender. And we were just like, oh, like what the hell, like freaking out for sure. And less like partying. And yeah, I definitely remember being like very like relieved and like shocked that like people were down and that like that project was over with. Because after that, it almost felt like it was like, oh, like kind of like close the door on like proving myself alongside all these other people. Like I've always looked at like everybody else that's in that video as being like crazy just like talented and like skilled, and like just the way that like everybody was at like where they were at that point in like time when we were all doing the launch and everything. And I just thought like everybody was like pretty high above me. And then because you're never like riding together in powder, you know, you're always at the launch and everyone's doing crazy stuff at Super Park or like these events. And then that was like the first time where I felt like I got to like showcase powder riding, and that it got like a positive, like whatever feedback. And so I think I was just like, all right, like close the door on like having to like prove that. And now like I will like continue to like be able to like do what I want to do, kind of.
Also, just for clarity, the launch was a under 18, like up and coming event ran by Snowboarder magazine, where like
under 20, under 22.
I mean, it was supposed to be under 18 to start.
Yeah, we were all still going to it. I think that was maybe like one of the last years of it or something. But that was like,
you guys got like the alumni status.
yeah, you like kind of see everybody go to that, and you're like, oh, if you do well at the launch, like you're gonna get like featured in snowboarder stuff or whatever. And then it was like, I never really hit like huge park features or anything, so it was it almost felt like, oh, this is like a kind of like breakout moment with like a legit like, you know, magazine and like legit people in the video and like people that care. Like we were going out with like there's other riders and cameos, and like Brian and Gucci obviously like helped start my whole like career with that, and he was coming out with us in Jackson all over the place and whatever. So it was just like kind of like a full circle, like coming up to then like having it be like, oh, like I did it kind of vibe.
I remember that event was so wild because that was back when budgets were just in a completely different place than they are now. But it would be like noon, and you'd have a bunch of like, I don't know, you'd have like 13 or 14-year-old like Brock Crouch and Tyler Flanagan, and like 17-year-old Ben Ferguson, whatever it was. Blake was there. And then like a fucking heli comes in, and you just hear Bridges screaming. He's like, Blake, go. And they're just like, there's like a fucking tiny little kid pinning it at this giant jump, and like the heli's like flying sideways right behind them. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, I can't even begin to think about like how fucking stressed these kids must be.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Yeah, it was definitely crazy.
Where were the few launches that you went to? Which ones were they?
I think the first one I went to was at Keystone. There was maybe one in Park City.
Yep.
There was, I don't know, I'm getting them confused like with, there's one at Bear. The one at Bear was really sick. But yeah, I just kind of like, that all blurs with like Super Park too, where you're like, I mean, I was never like hitting big park features, so I feel like I never like really put that much pressure on myself to do anything at those events. But I remember going to them and just seeing everybody and how good they were, and just like being part of the scene and partying with people like right when you're like at that prime age of just like having so much fun doing that with like the industry and stuff, where like you get older and like it's still great, but you're also like get jaded, where when you're young you're just like, I'm in the scene right now, and like I look up to like 3/4 of the people here at Super Park or whatever, and like you're in Bend and the whole bar just has like snowboarders in it, and then you know you're like going snowboarding for the next like 5 days. And yeah, it was just like, that was like crazy time. But
it's funny how it all blended, because
yeah,
the launch was meant to be kind of like a stepping stone to Super Park, but at a certain point, I'm pretty sure the launch became gnarlier than Super Park, or on the same level. So they all just kind of like blended into this thing. Like kids would come to the launch and then go to Super Park, and it all just became the same like organism. Basically, it was kind of a rinse and repeat park shoot scenario. It was really cool.
Yeah.
And you're still like very close with everyone on that roster from Forward.
Yeah, a bunch of them. I wouldn't say like every single person, but like definitely like, yeah, like Nils, Hans, like I was filmed a lot with like Garrett Warnick on that. I don't see him that much like nowadays, but like after, you know, like Ojo, I went on like a street trip with Ojo and Spencer for that that movie, like random stuff, like
hand play in the streets, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, some like hand drag thing. And then Yeah, just all kinds of like relationships that you like that kind of bond within a short amount of time when you're like working on a project like that with other people that maybe you don't know. So like definitely people nowadays where I'll like see them now that it's like 10 years later and you're like, yeah, remember that year? Like that was crazy, you know?
Well, it's funny because you look at just some of those names, and it's like you're teammates with Spenny, you're teammates with Taxwood. Technically, if you count natural selection, you're kind of like on the NST team with like Ben and Nils. You know what I mean? So you've all gone your own different directions, but also remained kind of together in that experience.
Yeah, totally, for sure. And that's like how it's gone with just everybody, even from like the Salt Lake crew, like the Lick the Cat crew, like way long time ago and stuff. It's like we're all still like doing it, but we're also like we've gone completely separate directions and like started working with other people or whatever. But like now when we're all back together, it's fun. It's like nothing's changed type of vibe. But we all look back on it like, whoa, like we're like the people, like we're the older generation kind of. We're like if we blinked and like we went from like 20s to 30. You know what I mean?
All right. I've been wanting to ask you this question for a long time. Of like, is there anything you do like I don't know, that makes you feel like just a total piece of shit afterwards? And I'm talking like, do you sit down and eat like a giant fucking bag of chips or like candy or some shit and then get done with it and be like, God damn, I wish I didn't do that. I feel like such a piece of shit.
That's the question you've been waiting a long time to ask him.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just okay.
I've just
All right.
I've never had the right.
Just whatever you like eat.
What's that?
Like anything, or just if you eat something and feel like shit afterwards.
Anything. Is there ever like a Saturday where you wake up with a hangover and you just pile out and like don't fucking move all day? Anything like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely like I don't really go ham on like junk food or sweets that much. I don't like eat myself into oblivion, but I'll definitely like overindulge and then wake up the next morning and be like, I'm not leaving the house today. And I almost know you're not leaving the house the day before. Like tomorrow, I'm just like door dashing food and like walking outside. But recently, I actually just got a sauna. So when I'm like really piling out, I just go in the sauna and it like relaxes you, but then picks your heart rate back up. And then you hit a little cold something afterwards, like the hose or whatever. And then you're like rejuvenated. But
Did you put is the sauna in California or is it in Utah?
it's in Utah.
What'd you go with? Did you go with like build your own style? Did you have one like delivered and you got to construct it?
It's like delivered and you got to construct it. But
What's the time frame on that? How long does it take?
I think it got delivered within like 2-3 weeks, and then I had Jeff Richards, Spenny, and Boggs come over, and basically like they kind of Boggs and Jeff kind of like brought a couple tools to the thing, and I was like, okay, like these guys know how to build this shit. If it was like just me and one other person, it would have taken longer, but I swear we probably built it in like 3 hours or less. It's pretty simple, the whole thing, and it's definitely worth it.
Dude, Boggs is the guy to call. Like, I'm having plumbing problems up here in Portland. I might call Boggs. Be like, dude, can I fly you up? Can you fix this shit? Like, the man's just a fixer. He knows how to.
I mean, even if he doesn't come out there, he'll still just make you feel good on the phone. He'll be like, oh, man, that sucks. I went through that. He's, sometimes you got to call someone to fix it. You're like, you're right, man. All right.
He's like the ultimate, like, emotional support homie,
For sure.
I still can't believe that was the question. Yeah. Great question. I didn't have that much. I didn't put any peanut butter in my smoothie this morning, Bird. So I kind of feel like I'm a little loopy. I kind of feel like a piece of shit today.
I mean, you're different though. You're going through some crazy shit right now with your stomach problem. So I'll give you a pass on that.
We don't even have. I don't even at my house. I don't have a. Not only do I not have a sauna, I don't even have hot water for more than like a 5-minute shower.
What?
Yeah, dude. I can't wash my dishes and then take a shower within like 3 hours. It takes a little while.
Dude, you got to get that fixed, bro.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how to fix anything. I traveled all winter.
Call Bob right now. Just call
Yeah.
Bob.
I have to do it.
Um,
Bird was saying something earlier. It's pretty funny. Like now that winter's winding down, it's pretty funny to go from the wind down of winter straight into tax season. It's kind of like the shittiest 1-2 punch you can potentially have as a snowboarder. Thoughts?
I got a tax appointment right after this podcast, but
how's taxes going to be this year? You sweating your appointment, or are you going to be okay?
oh, I'm chilling. I like prepay every quarter, and like I got it all dialed, but it's just like busy work is just annoying, and I'm like good at procrastinating it, where I'm just like I have to do my taxes, like I have to go through like every single credit card transaction in the last year. I used to like do it every quarter and stay up on it, but yeah, this last year I just didn't do it. I was like, I'm doing it all at the end. It's so easy. I'll do it in like a day. And now I'm like,
See that's my big question for you. You're obviously one of the like calmest people on the surface. Like I don't think I've ever seen you rattled ever. You very like, like similar tone through the day, but like I looked at your Instagram, right? And I see your link tree and your link in bio is like extremely organized to like all your promotional stuff. Yeah. So like, are you secretly extremely type A, or are you type B? And you're saying you prepay on your taxes. Dude, I didn't pay my taxes last year until November. And I did not file an extension.
You got that penalty then.
Oh, it was not fun. I had to call about the penalty, and I tried to what was it called? I tried to appeal, and they have denied every appeal I've attempted. My tax lady does not like me.
Nah.
Yeah.
That's brutal. I definitely have messed up a few times and like gotten the penalty waived, but then you still have to pay interest, and then you're just like, that's actually when I sit down for a second. I'm like, God damn, I'm a piece of shit. Like, just like, and you're like, all right, like how much can I really be on top of it? But no, I think I feel like it's kind of like the same as like on the surface I may seem chill or whatever. It's like the same with like my tidiness and organization. Like on the surface, like my house is like very clean, and I like think that I have like all my stuff together and I keep track of everything, but I'm also always like, am I doing as much as I could possibly be doing to be like saving as much money on taxes, or am I not? Like, am I like, it's like that meme when you're like, oh, when you like finally become an adult and you realize that everybody's just winging it. I'm just like winging it, but it looks like organized. But I'm trying my hardest. I don't know. All I do is just talk to other people and get references and just go from that,
What does the pre or the post winter thaw out look like for Blake Paul? Like you're probably still filming a little bit, picking some stuff up here and there. What are the coming months have in store for you once winter ends?
I don't know. I kind of just like take time to chill at home in Utah. Normally every winter, I feel like I like come back from like traveling. I mean, in the past few years, the snow's not as good this year, so I've been home a little bit more, but like usually I'd like leave Salt Lake or Jackson or whatever at like early February, and then just go to like drive to Canada and basically like not come back until like end of April, or like fly back for a couple of days. So like usually when end of April hits, I'm just like, I'm home. I'm just gonna like go skate. It's like super nice weather. It's kind of like the best time of year in Salt Lake. Because you're like, you can go snowboarding, and then you can like come down and go skating. Like everybody's in town. There's usually like stuff going on. So I like to like chill in Salt Lake and like just like actually spring clean and like do whatever type of stuff I need to do for the house. And then I usually move to California like in July or August, and then do like that till like December, and then come back around. So usually like when the season winds down is like almost like my Salt Lake hang time. And then like I feel like June is like a good time to travel and like get away from the like heat that's in Salt Lake in the summer. But
do you have a take on pro snowboarders uploading skate clips to Instagram all for like 5 months at a time? Everybody just kind of starts dropping skate clips before they get back to their winter clips.
Yeah, totally. It's funny. I mean, I think it's just a good transition from like, if you think about it, you've been like a lot of like all these snowboarders like probably got into skating at the same age, and then snowboarding just like became their profession. So it almost like, it's not like it takes away a little bit, but it does in a sense where like when you post snowboarding or when you like go snowboarding, you're like, it has these like tendencies of feeling like a job where like you're like, oh, should I film a clip today? Should I do this? Like, oh, should I take this photo for my sponsors, whatever. And then, but like when you were young and you got into snowboarding and skating at the same time, had like a different meaning. So I feel like for me, at least personally, with like surfing and skateboarding, it's like a way to like hold on to that like vibe of like, I'm doing this activity that like brings me joy for myself and for like not really anybody else, not for any like personal like gain, but just to like feel good or whatever. So like I feel like with skating, and it translates to that where you're like, I'm doing kind of the same stuff. Like I'm getting together with a group of friends, we're going to a place. If we're like feeling good about it or whatever, we're gonna like film each other, and then we're gonna like go get food or do whatever, and then we're gonna go like hang out, and it's just like this like constant thing. And then with like actually the skating clips, like when I'm in California and I haven't snowboarded in a while, I feel like it's just another way to, you're like, oh, I want to like get like that like clip high like type of feeling where it's like in snowboarding, it's honestly like fucked. Like I kind of like, I think I talked to like David Benedict about it, and then he also like brought it up on his podcast about how you're just like, how do you feel like, how are you going to like feel that like crazy sense of joy that you feel like all season, whether you're like in the line to like go ride powder with like all your friends and it's like January and you're super hyped, or you like get like what you think might be your like ender clip or like whatever, you get like a good trip and a bunch of clips and you're like, you just get that high. You're like, oh, I've been like trying to be a pro snowboarder my whole life, and now I'm like living it, and now I like just got another clip and I'm making it, keeping it going, and it's just like this crazy like rush of just like excitement and like whatever endorphins. And then the summer hits and you're kind of like, like one like how like, not that I don't like find joy in everything in life, but you're kind of like, skating's like a way to be like, I really want to go to this spot and try to get this trick just to like conquer it, just to be like, oh, like I did it. And then there's no pressure of like sponsors or a video or anything. You're just like, I just did that for myself and now I'm going to post it. And you're just like, oh yeah, there's like,
I get the opposite of clip high. Like, when I'm snowboarding, I do something in my mind that I think like could have looked cool, but I know it looked bad on video, but no one filmed it. I'm like, hell yeah, that's like that's why I loved surfing so much. I know my surfing looked terrible, but every time I actually had a successful wave, I was like, that was my clip high, because I was like, in my mind, that looked sick.
Yeah.
And then like somebody would show me from the beach, like, oh, I just happened to get this on my cell phone, and it was the ugliest, just
yeah. You're like, no,
like the hips.
I don't need to see it. I'm good. Like I'm gonna remember it how I remember it. Every time, like
that's my
get on a snowboard shoot and the rider I'm shooting with is like, oh, T-Bird, you should do this and I'll film it. I'm like, sweet. I used to be like super into it. And then the minute they give me my phone back and I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's just fucking deleted. It's got to go away. It looked terrible.
It's like when someone shows you the photo of the eclipse from their phone, and you're just like, I do not care about this at all. Good. I only want to see a photo or a video of Blake snowboarding, not myself. I just want to do it myself. Yeah.
We want to see your clips too, Clayton.
I mean, Clavin, come on. We need
be real here. You never got a clip high off one of those bail clips?
The bail clips definitely get a clip high, but then I also get a medical high bill that I do pay. So I'm kind of chilling on that.
All right, Prati, as we approach an hour here, I know you got a tax appointment. Final question for me. Give me your perfect day of surfing. I need like the board. Are you running a wetsuit? What's the size of the wave? Are you?
And this one, add in like some crazy story from, some story from like paddling out that you just did not think was going to happen, and it was a pretty good day.
Oh man. Fuck.
Start with board size. What are we running for the stick? You probably got a quiver. I'm assuming.
Yeah, I have like a 5'3" fish. It's a quad. It's just like a little more drawn out and like wider, but like it's short, so it's like it's fun on like it's basically like the California Perfect board. It's like the RNF Lost board. Then what else do I have? I won that Mark Richards board in natural selection like 2 years ago, so I got to like customize a board, and so I got like a twin 6.0 that's like skinnier. I have like a couple traditional short boards that are like 5'10".
The potato chip.
Yeah, just like ran. I kind of have a lot of surfboards, and now I live with like these two surf gods in Oceanside, like Ian Crane, who's like an actual pro surfer, and then Gabe Garcia, who like was a pro surfer and now he's like an agent. But they're like board nerds, and I've like been riding some of Ian's boards and whatever. But honestly, like I feel like I should say like something like, oh, like perfect day would be like in, whatever, like Mexico or like some like the Mentawais or something like that. But like honestly, like I kind of like surfing in California for some reason. I just am like about the vibe of it when the waves are good. Yeah, just like because I feel like we travel all winter. I'm down to like go on a surf trip, but I also like don't need to like charge surfing. I'm not trying to like surf like super big, like gnarly waves that are just gonna like stress you out, and you're only gonna surf them and get like 2 waves, and then that's your session. Like I'm more into like me and Ika go down to George's by like in Cardiff. It's like head high beach break. You can just like catch a million waves. It's sunny. Like I remember we had like one day there where we like surfed in the morning. It was super good, like offshore clean. Like maybe it's only even waist high, but you just get a lot of waves because you'll like surf, do a couple turns, then you're in like knee deep water. You hop on your board, you paddle back out. Eyes are paddling back out. Another wave comes. It's like short period swell or whatever. And we like surfed all morning, and then it was like this is in like October. And then they'll get like the Santa Ana winds in October. So it'll get like super hot offshore winds from the desert, and there'll be like no one around. And then we like went back, surfed it again all middle of the day, just like that type of vibe where like you're in California, but it like feels like you're like on some like crazy surf trip, and then you're just right there so you can go skate or do whatever. I don't know. I'm not like an adventure surfer. I just like to like get good waves when I can. Go to Mexico like once a year or something like that. But
Dude,
you always wear your sun bum, correct? Because aren't you on the sun bum scene? Yeah, you get
I rolled down to the beach, the headphones on, sun on my face.
Vans. Yeah.
I'm eating a Kodiak take. I got Vans shoes on, little North Face sweatshirt.
Yeah.
Dragon sunglasses.
I can relate.
Not to mention, every time you go surfing in SoCal, it's like there's so many snowboarders in the water.
Yeah, that's another thing is like I said earlier, like it's kind of the best. You like wake up, paddle out, and then I like run into like Alex Lopez. Like haven't seen him in like a year, and then it's just me and him surfing this like really good wave like in the fall. Maybe the weather's not as good or there's no one out or whatever, and you're like, oh, like we're just like getting it in the place that everybody thinks like sucks, but like it's fun enough for me because I'm still like progressing every year. I'm not like trying to like get beat down, like whatever, bounce off the.
I'm a firm believer that there are very few things more enjoyable than going and catching like fun waves with your homies and then just going and getting like a fish taco and a ice cold Corona. It's the best day you can have, I think, outside of maybe like a Psycho Pow day.
Yeah. Oh, sure. I mean,
I don't know, man. I used to surf a lot alone, and in the middle of COVID, when it was very empty at Cotton's, like up in the Trussels area in San Clemente, paddled out right next to Batman, surfed with Christian Bale for about an hour and a half.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
That's great.
I was living right at the Carl's, like at the corner of the Carl's Jr., so I would go there like nonstop. And when they shut down a lot of the beaches during COVID, like you could go onto the Cottons one because it was like a private beach if you had access. So we went down there, and there was like 2 little girls out, and then maybe like at the time maybe like 15 people, and we went out there, and The little girls are sitting there, and I overhear him saying like, "Oh, my dad's like way." They point to a guy way off in the distance, and she's like, "My dad's way over there. He's like too afraid of like the crowds during COVID." And there really wasn't many people.
So you're like, oh, let me go paddle over to this guy.
No, I
Let me get into that personal space.
I was like, no, I believe in COVID. I'm vaccinated. I was not trying to get anyone's personal space. No, but the like as like the day went on, like a lot of people left, and I work for a snowboarding magazine, so I had nothing to do. And like just kind of eventually the guy came over, and it was just like 5 of us, and he paddles right by me, and I'm like, that looks a lot like Christian Bale. And he looked like machinist Christian Bale. Like he was pretty skinny. And then I heard him start talking, and like he had an accent. And then he like caught a sick wave right in front of me. And I was like, 100%, that's Batman. Like he kind of, he like spread his wings out and everything. And then he like paddled right by me. And I was like, hey man, big fan. Cause like, I didn't want to like be like, holy shit. I was like, big fan. And I paddled away, and he ended up paddling over like 10 minutes later. And we were just like chatting about the area for a bit. Super nice guy.
I would have opted, as he paddled by, I would have gone, where is she?
Well, considering his daughter was also in the water, I don't like, hey, I didn't want to say anything weird.
I was, when I lived in SoCal, we lived right at this break called 204s, and before the Oakley Trestles Pro or Oakley Pro or whatever, I was in the water at the same time as Kelly Slater.
Oh.
People were like, it was funny because I knew he was down there. I wanted nothing to do with going over and like talking to him at all because I didn't want to bother him. But you could see there's like 200 stairs, right? Like this huge stair set. And the longer he was in the water, you could tell word was getting out in the neighborhood, and people were like sprinting down the fucking stairs, like by the dozen. And then he got out of the water, and it was cool. He like signed a bunch of autographs and shit. But he was ripping. It was the most impressive surfing that I've ever seen because it was like shit waves. It wasn't even that good. And he was finding a way to just fucking like destroy it. It was nuts.
That's crazy. That's what I've seen with like the dudes I live with now. They're just like, it's like 2 foot, and they're like doing like big airs, and I'm seeing like all this water moving. And then I'm kind of like, if I could like learn how to rip a shitty wave like this, like I'll have fun all the time. Like they just have fun. Like Ian's like a freak. He has fun no matter what. We'll like paddle out, and it's like barely any waves, and we'll just like fuck around, and it's just sick to be like, I don't know. Surfing in a sense is like, it's something that I feel like you'll be able to do a lot longer in life, and it's so like not serious to me at all, and it like gives you this like same joy as like snowboarding and powder, and like almost the same like risk, because you like feel like when you're like, oh, like I could eat shit on this wave, or like, you know, it's like very like difficult. So it's like you get that whole, it's like house surfing and like, you know, the terrain, like gnarly terrain or something like that, where you're like, oh, this is like makes snowboarding completely different again. That's like surfing, where you're like,
yeah, we're all terrible at duck diving, so it's a good workout. Like
and when you're done, you're not like, oh my god, my knees hurt, or like I'm like sore, I have like a shinner from like skating. You're like, oh, I feel like pretty good. Like feel like I just like worked out my whole body. Like, and like
regarding your roommates, you got to level the playing field and just take them snowboarding with you. And then they'll be like, roommate, every time he snowboards, has so much fun, and we're not that good.
No, they rip actually. They'll because it's like they're good at surfing, so they'll just like hit any big cliff or like catch any air.
Who's the best snowboarder that like you've gone surfing with? Or I guess who is the what? I don't know even know how to ask that question.
Who's like the snowboarder that surf?
Yeah. Who's the best surfing snowboarder?
I mean, Judd Hankey's put out that video last year where he's like charging barrels.
Yeah, that was psycho.
All over the world or whatever.
Greenhorn. Yeah.
I've heard Brock is pretty good. Like he almost.
No, I surf with Brock, and like you're just like, oh, this dude's really fucking good. He's like the same style, surfing like shitty waves really well, and
he was one of the only dudes for a while he was like the only person that was ever on USA surfing and snowboarding at the same time, besides like Dave Downey or somebody back in the day.
Dave Downing's really good. I surfed with him. JP Walker's good. Todd's good. Ika's good. McMo is really good. Mark McMorris is like pretty good. I remember he like posted a clip of him doing like a little air ollie in a wave pool that was sick.
Have you ever surfed a wave pool?
I've never surfed a wave pool somehow.
I would like to.
Yeah. Maybe we should podcast to whatever, Waco.
Where we still just do it from separate rooms and then we can all surf together and then we all just still Zoom. We're never doing in-person podcasts. We've already set that rule. Not going to do it.
What if Fat Tire just brings you guys out, and tells you to run some podcasts at the pool? You'll say, nope, we're still doing it. We'll come, but we're doing it in our rooms.
We can do it from different cabanas.
Or you do it like you're actually all sitting around a table together, but you're all on computers that are only facing you. As you're like looking like at this way, talking like you're right there.
Yeah, we're keeping this. We still don't know how to get this on Spotify. We're keeping this about as low profile or as lo-fi as we can. So it'll be a fun learning curve.
That's how great stuff starts. You got to start somewhere.
That's right, dude.
That's how Lampshade.brother started, and look at it now.
It has 10 followers now, yeah.
That's how
Good.
Another hat. Yeah, that's a solid another hat. His entrance into the hat game is about as late as our entrance into the podcast game, so maybe we will all grow together.
That's the point, though. You just make it like kind of the worst one when it starts, so people are like pulling for you, and then you just never get too big because then they'll just write you off. You want to kind of maintain the underdog.
Yeah. I had an old neighbor out in Ohio that when they used to have puppies and too many puppies on their property, this is probably not ethically that great, but they used to wrap one of the arms of the puppies like in a cast and put it by the road. Not hurt at all. These things were but the moment people saw an injured puppy, like they would take it. So like if they had 10 on a litter that year, they was like, cool. They'd wrap like 3 of them up, make them look injured, and they were gone before the hour was over.
Then they'd bring them to the vet and they're like, oh, it's totally fine. They're like, oh my God, like, please, we saved it.
And then I know we're wrapping up soon. Last question though is for our listeners. I will not ask you to give, your secrets of your style away, but there has to be something in your turn. There has to be one body mechanic that you can give to people that you've unlocked over your years and years of riding to make their turn just look a little bit better. Anything in your hips, maybe in your chest.
Turn.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think like when people do turns or whatever, when they are trying to make something out of nothing terrain, whether it's like turning or doing something, I feel like maybe people just try like too hard, especially when you're filming, like to just try, like just trying to like have style. Like you can tell when people are like trying to like do something with their body or like forced. So I feel like what I've always thought about is like, I always like hated that. So I'm just like, don't even try to do anything. Like, don't even just like go there and do a turn as if like, not like as if it's just you out here and no one will ever see it. You know what I mean?
It's good advice.
Because I think it's just like people get caught up in like, oh, like I feel like a lot of like the stuff, the snowboarding that like I learned or whatever wasn't like it wasn't just like your typical like go to this jump and learn this trick. It was a lot of just like, and that's what I see with like Cannon Cummins too. Like the other day or last winter, he did like a front 7 on a pow jump and a back rodeo 7. And I think he landed them like both like first try or pretty close to it. And they both like looked insane. And at the end of the day, he's like, that's the first time I've ever done a front 7 or a back rodeo 7. And you're just like,
crazy,
dude, but they look like so like it looks like so good because he's like, it's not like this refined, like trained thing that you've like practiced. Because you can even tell that in people's turns where they're like coming in like, you know what I mean? It's just like, I think if you just are not trying, it kind of just like portrays it a little bit better in terms of just like, that looks fun rather than like.
Well, I listen to a lot of podcasts, a lot of times with comedians, because I just think they're the funniest people on earth. And literally, like, the guiding light of every comedian is don't try to be funny. Just be funny. Be yourself. And if it's funny, it'll happen, you know?
If I did a don't try on a 720, that would be the last viral clip you guys would ever see me on the internet. I could tell you that right now.
More for like turning.
I don't subscribe to this don't try. I would be. I've not tried a 720 my entire life, and I have not ever landed a 720.
All right, Proddy. Well, the tax man's calling for you, buddy. We know you got to get out of here, and we just want to say thank you for carving out an hour of your schedule to just chat with us. It's been a pleasure, buddy.
Oh yeah, no, thank you. Appreciate it. Stoked to be on here and hang with you guys.
Yeah, huge fan. Thank you again. This is insane.
Same, bro.
Dude, Blake Paul, Proddy, the Prince, the dude's just, he's fucking awesome, man. I love that guy. He's so goddamn chill. How do we be that chill? I'm a nervous fucking wreck all the time.
Yeah, every time I talk to him, I end up just putting my foot in my mouth normally because he's just so relaxed and I'm like trying to make up for something. So yeah, no, I mean, once again, it's still pretty shocking. I mean, it's because of you. You're pulling in like so far 4 guests that have all been like insane riders. It's crazy that
they're here because they want to talk to you.
Yeah, no, but it's awesome just to be able to actually sit with these people, and it's nice to talk to them for an hour and just kind of chat about whatever. I think, our intro banter for this episode, it wasn't as strong as before, but I think we're going to get there,
Yeah, we're going to get there. It's a day-to-day thing, Mark. It's what's going on in our everyday lives. But no, I think the coolest part of our jobs, what I've always loved about, quote unquote, snowboard journalism is just talking to the people in our community. And that's what this podcast is. And that's why I'm having fun with it.
For sure. Wait, real quick. Sorry do you consider yourself a snowboard journalist?
No.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know if what we do is technically journalism.
I mean, podcasting is a form of media. So,
yeah.
I don't
ever want to be called a content creator either. So I don't know. Maybe I'm going to stick with journalist. Sounds the nicest. I'm going to stick with journalist.
I think content creator is like the headline of my LinkedIn profile.
Oh God.
I mean, what else? Yeah. What else do you call it?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Eating right now, like a seed cracker.
Yeah, I got a pecan cracker. A little ASMR for those people out there.
You actually can't even hear you chewing at all.
These $89 mics, really, we got our money's worth. If I knew that, I'd be eating during the entire podcast.
All right, but I got a plumber coming over in about 20 minutes. Try to figure out this kitchen sink dishwasher situation. What do you got going on the rest of the day?
I also have to do taxes, like our guest. I'm not looking forward to it, but I really don't want to get a 5-month penalty again this year. So I'm going to try to actually get it done by the April 15th deadline.
All right, buddy. Well, another good episode. It's been a pleasure, and I'll talk to you soon, my man. Enjoy the rest of your day.
See you later, bird.
Later, buddy.